Mark Sargent is truly a dumb person.
Okay.
He is not to be mean, but Mark Sargent is just not smart. He,
Today I am speaking with MC Toon. MC Toon is a YouTube content creator, science communicator, and debater known for his debunking of the flat earth theory. We discuss a variety of topics, including why he debates the shape of the earth and his goals in doing so, the conviction of many prominent flat earthers, his real life experiences, and our shared background as developers, and the implications of artificial intelligence. I hope you will enjoy. And now I bring you MC Toon.
To whomever is watching this in the future, I am speaking with MC Toon. And again, Mike, thanks for doing this.
yeah, glad to be here.
All right. So you've been debunking, debating, and the shape of the earth with flat earthers for practically once a week for 3 or 4 years now. So my first question to you is why the interest in flat earth, and how were you first introduced to it, and why debunk it and debate it on YouTube?
Okay. Well, my first introduction to it actually on YouTube was just had been watching some I'd be watching lectures on physics, and YouTube started feeding me some of the debunkers videos. And then I got curious, like, seriously, and then found some of the other videos, went to an online forum, participated in there for a while. That was over 5 years ago. But before that, actually, there was a flat earth page by Schadewald. He's Robert Schadewald, who's passed away now, but he's from Minneapolis area, actually, where I'm from. And he was an atheist that said that the Bible said that the earth was flat as a way to attempt to discredit the Bible. So that I had found, I don't know, at least 5 years before that. It was a chapter from a book, and I had found that online somewhere. So that's as far back as I actively thought about flat earth, other than the incorrect information about Columbus that people have been told. Nobody at the time thought the earth was flat generally. So that historical incorrectness was told by somebody just making a story that was a little twisted. I've been debating them online for over 4 years. I have had my channel for about 4.5 years, and I started with a guy that had put out a $100,000 challenge to do flight paths using real flight charts. He just said flight charts, which most of the time are digital. So several of us did some digital ones, and he said, no, I meant paper charts. He moved the goalpost. So up on the wall here, I have the actual paper charts that I used to do that. The challenge was do 3 legs of a straight route. Each of them have a 90-degree turn, and then get back to where you started. So essentially a triangle with 3 sides that are all the same size. And that's what I did. So, and it worked just fine. And of course, he wasn't quite interested in accepting that until a couple years later. He pretended to switch. None of us believed him. But when he pretended to switch, he acknowledged that I did win, and he was going to pay me, which of course he never did.
But and you've never been paid by any of these flat earthers, I imagine. Is that right?
No, I was kind to him in this challenge. I said, look, take 50% of it and send it to charity. And I named the charity. And he was going to do it once a month. He was going to send $1,000. That was his offer. And then I said, then hold the other 50%, and I will do flat earth challenges using that as the winnings. And of course, all of those challenges would require the earth to be flat, so he would never have to pay out.
I was about to say, you've been issuing challenges lately, and you're never, obviously that you're never gonna have to pay out. So it's kind of,
yeah. So since then, I have put my own money in escrow, and I've reissued the one of the challenges that I did with his money, with my own money. So I have real money that I put into escrow, somebody else is holding. It's 0.4 Bitcoin, which is worth more than $10,000. So the actual challenge is $10,000, paid it via Bitcoin, for a couple of, specifically to a celestial navigation. Just do celestial navigation using only flat earth. year and a half, nobody. And then a gravity challenge, which is predict the specific magnitude of the downward acceleration for 10 spots on the Earth. They pick 5, I pick 5. Whether whoever's closer, their method or my method, which uses, you know, mass to mass attraction. And I've gotten no entries for that one. A guy kind of sent an email saying, hey, I have a vague idea, but he wasn't a flat earther, but he's like, yeah, this probably wouldn't qualify. And it didn't, but it was a good idea.
So no real interest, no one even attempting it, huh?
Yeah, there's $10,000 sitting there ready for them to do it. And, you know, basically it's, oh, you don't really have the money. I'm like, I documented sending it. But if I don't really have the money, then that's a perfect opportunity for you to expose me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do it following the rules and then expose me as having no, you can't even do that, can you?
Yeah, well,
Yes.
to win, it sounds like it would require a certain amount of scientific rigor. And
yeah, it would. I mean, you
Yeah.
have to do celestial navigation,
Yeah.
not using the globe, the radius of the globe somewhere in your process. Which of course can't happen because the Earth is a globe. Or you'd have to actually predict the magnitude of the downward acceleration, which they don't have any mechanism for that.
Right, of course. Cool, interesting. Like you said, so I can't believe you've been debating for 4 years now, right?
Yeah.
I noticed a lot in your debates, maybe by design or not, you often call the flat earther or whoever you're debating a liar, or at least you accuse them of lying, right?
Yep.
So my question for you is, do you feel that, I guess, flat earthers or conspiracy theorists in general genuinely believe what they claim? I guess not in some cases, because since you're saying they're lying, and to what extent? And maybe you could break that down by content creators, like personalities online that claim to be flat earthers. What percentage of them are, full of crap, and what percentage of them are actually, just maybe confused or uneducated on the topic? And then what about viewers, like their viewers? What percentage of viewers do you think really believe what they say?
Yeah. Okay. So there's two groups there. There's the, as some people have said, the t-shirt sellers and the t-shirt buyers. I think the t-shirt buyers are honest flat earthers. They actually really think the Earth is flat. And most of the time, that's the people I debate. The reason why most of the time that's who I debate is because the guys that are t-shirt sellers often don't want to talk to me. But I'm not as cynical. Some people are kind of cynical. I'm not as cynical. I think most of them actually believe it. And they get into these patterns that's a mental issue. A pathological liar believes their lies. So is a pathological liar a liar because they believe it? Yeah, they're still a liar. Just believing the lie doesn't excuse you from telling the lie.
Doesn't that just make them wrong if they believe it?
Well, what do you call a pathological liar? What's that second word in there?
Okay. So
right. So psychology at least says that a pathological liar who believes their lies is still a liar. It's a fair question. If they believe it to be true, are they a liar? If you define liar as a person that tells a lie, then if they are telling a lie, believe it or not, they are a liar. If you define a liar as somebody that knowingly tells a lie, then no, that person is not a liar. And so which definition is the right well, I don't know if there's a correct one, right? That there's a lot of subjectivity to the actual, how do you evaluate that? So it's a fair question. They maybe aren't all liars. And certainly when they come into the debate and they're like, here's some evidence that I heard from somebody else and I'm repeating it without really understanding it, and I didn't do my research on it.
Yeah.
And I know that the foundations of that are untrue. So I'll talk to them and I'll say, look, that's not true. And here's why, boom, boom, boom. And I'll go through the process. Okay, so now they've said something untrue. They've been corrected on it. And once they're corrected on it, if they choose to continue to be incorrect on it, then what? Are they willfully lying now? I don't know. Do they still believe it? Probably. So again, you could go either way on that, depending on how you want to choose to define lying, if it's intentional or not.
Well, that brings me to, I'm not quite sure. In your debates, it appears to me at least that you're not always trying to convince or change the mind of the person you're debating.
Nope.
It doesn't seem like that's your goal the whole way. And I say this because you occasionally get, abrasive or aggressive in your making your points and pointing out their either lies or just being dead wrong. You've gotten the nickname Flurf Crusher for a reason.
Oh, I have.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No,
Okay, well, there you go.
that's funny.
Yeah. So would you agree with those observations that you're not trying to convince the person you're debating necessarily,
I'm not.
that you do so if you agree with that, what are you trying to accomplish during the debate?
My main goal is to shine a spotlight on the dishonesty of flat Earth.
Okay.
If I can make a flat earther look like a horrible person in the process, okay, it's a subjective thing. It doesn't change the shape of the earth. But I have noticed in the process that a disproportionate number of flat earthers are quite horrible people as well. So, they don't need to go into it too much, but they like to throw out accusations of things with no evidence about what people do with children. They'll just get trapped in something, and that's where they go. Like, that's disgusting. Horrible things actually happen to real people, and you're using that as a weapon against somebody when you just have no evidence to support your case. How about you just admit that you have no evidence to support your case? No, they can't do that. They need to go there. So you'll find, I don't know, the psychology of them is all disproportionate. And in order to get to the position where you think that the earth is flat, if you draw a Venn diagram of the different people and the overlap of what it is, you find the people that are in there often have a whole lot of psychological problems, and that explains why it's disproportionate. But no, it's not really. That's not. I mean, if it's a horrible person, I'm going to expose them. But if they're not, hey, I will be happy to have a super conversation with them and walk away friends. 2 times, Jaron and I have had a great conversation. Jaron is probably, I don't know, second or third most well-known flat earther. I like him. I can talk to him. We get along. And he's the kind of guy I can deal with, and I would love to meet in person. But there's others that if I met them in person, it would not go well. If they've made specific accusations against me online, well, I would want to call the police on them for those types of things, or at least file a suit against them. Costs money, and slander in the United States is a difficult one to actually litigate. So I don't have the kind of money that it would be necessary to make them pay for their false accusations.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point is, I'm shining a spotlight on the problems of flat Earth and the failings of it, so that somebody else can come along later and say, watch it, who might be on the fence or might sometime later get exposed to it and get the real information and say, oh, well, yeah, they didn't do a good experiment here. They ignored this thing there. They completely hand waved away this whole bunch of evidence that they didn't like. They didn't even look at it. Like, if you don't look at evidence, what does that say about you? If you refuse to look at it, well, that's an admission of defeat right there. So I love exposing them in that. And my favorite, though, my real favorite, is to get them to put themselves in a corner. If they're like, show me the curve, I trust my senses, and I'll show them a picture of the curve.
Yeah.
And they'll say, nuh-uh. Wait, I thought you trusted your senses. I thought you wanted me to show you a picture of the curve.
Yeah.
Then they'll say, oh, that's a fisheye lens. And I'll say, well, hold on a second. Here's that lens showing a straight line above center frame, same lens showing below center frame, not adding distortion. It's not a fisheye lens. Now what? Oh, it's, whatever else they come up with.
They're basically in denial, but they walked right into it. You saw that coming. So they're. All right. So you're one of a handful of people who are pushing back, who are trying to maybe educate some of the audience and prevent them from going down the rabbit hole any further. You, Simon, Dan is the popular one, obviously. Fight the Flat Earth. I watch all these guys, and do you think you guys are making a difference? I mean, where do you see do you see flat Earth being a thing 10 years from now, 50 years from now? Are there going to be a new generation of flat earthers? And it's
yeah. So one thing I'll answer that new generation thing first by also answering a previous question. Why do I do it? If the book How to Talk to a Science Denier by Lee McIntyre is a great book. The first chapter is the important part. He went to the Flat Earth Global Convention in 2018. And during that convention on second or third day, one person got up during a question and answer thing, brought their kid with them. And during that time, the presenter was like, here's why we got to target the kids. They target the kids. That's why I do it, because targeting the kids with lies is wrong. Even if you don't know they're lies, it's wrong and it needs to be stopped. So Lee McIntyre was so disgusted by that, he left the convention right then. And it's targeting the kids is a problem. So a future generation, I hope not. I hope that what we're doing does have an impact. In 2015, 2016, there was nobody really fighting back against it. And the YouTube algorithm just went, promoted it because they knew how to play the algorithm. And so people were getting fed the videos from flat earthers over and over and over. And it unrestricted, unchallenged, it grew, it festered. So yeah, we need to challenge it, because if we didn't, it would just go crazy. Do I think that there will be flat earthers in 10 years? I think that that flat earth ends, new flat earthers end. There's no more new flat earthers once enough people know somebody that's been to space. I think that there will stop it right away, because if somebody gets told, hey, did you hear about the flat earth? And then they're like, well, yeah, my dad was in space last week. That won't go over well, right? That person won't be convinced. So once there's, how many degrees of separation does everybody need to be in the first world, right? Third world definitely will have a little farther gap, but within the first world, how many degrees of separation to somebody that's been to space? 2 or 3 might be all you need. My friend's dad went to space. My friend's dad's uncle went to space. Somewhere in that range there will be, yep, that's enough that their evangelism will end. And I don't doubt that the current holders of the belief of flat earth will once the people they know have gone to space, they won't be convinced. Flat earthers have already said if they went to space, they still wouldn't believe. They specifically said that. We'd be like, how do I know they're not drugging me? How do I know that the windows aren't just screens? How do I know that, all these things that they've already rejected the idea of themselves going to space. So no, they're a lost cause. And so, like I said, I'm not trying to convince flat earthers. When you're debating somebody, it's unlikely that during the debate, somebody actually will change their mind. I don't know if I've seen that ever. People have afterwards, but not during, regardless of the topic.
Actually, I had a question for you about that. Have you ever been in the middle of a debate and made a point and visually watch it kind of sink in and make this person question their whole position?
Make them question. Well, all right. When you're in a debate, I think the mindset, their mindset is a bit different than that it won't let them. You've got your guards up. Everybody's, you're on defense.
Sure.
So have I seen them where they're like, oh, I might be wrong? I don't think so. But I have seen them when I present something like this, panic comes in, which would be the same kind of thing where they're like, oh no, that's actually exactly what I asked for, because they'll ask for things like, show me the curve. Here's the curve. Oh, crap. Or show me 8 inches per mile squared drop. Right. Okay, here you go. I can give exactly that. And then what? I gave you just what you wanted.
Then
and you know what they
subject.
do? Exactly. They have to change the subject.
Yeah.
Because I just gave them what they said they would take. and they ran from it.
I mean, yeah, I've seen that happen to. I mean, every debater that seems to happen to you, happen in general. All right. What about your personal experience, like in real life? Have you ever had a family member or close friend that maybe not fell into flat Earth or started to believe, but or it doesn't even have to be flat Earth, some kind of online conspiracy, moon landing, 9/11, or maybe even have just came to you expressing some kind of that maybe they found the arguments compelling and they're not sure. Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah. So I used to work with a guy. He's passed away now, but he was a bit into the conspiracy stuff. He was definitely a 9/11 guy. But he and I would laugh about flat earthers. We'd chuckle about it. And I, he would talk about, like, he's like, I can't believe they would take that with no evidence. And I'd be like, you just did that an hour ago about 9/11. The very same pattern that you identified in them, you did yourself.
Yeah.
And he was untrusting of doctors and anything like that. And so, if he had a health issue, he'd be like, oh, I'm going to go here instead of actually talking to the doctor. So I'm like, oh, that's not helping you. But I can actually give a little more personalized than that on flat Earth. My kids were doing some stuff at church, and they had parents going with, right? And so I was there and my kids were there, and we kind of had this group of parents and their kids and similar age and stuff, and the kids were all friends. So we had, for 2 years, we were together dealing with stuff and just kind of overseeing our kids. And turns out 2 of these people were flat earthers. During the time that we were, right, I look at the timeline, I'm like, this was every week we were with our kids and our families together. And during that time, you got into flat Earth, and I was right here. This is before I was doing videos or anything. But they knew that I was liked to do science and had an engineering background and stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of personal. One of their kids I taught how to drive. Another one I taught how to change brakes on a car. Would go to the kids' sports events, things like that. And then they're like, pop out on the other end as flat earthers. I'm like, hold on a second, I'm right here. Why go there and not just talk to me? So that bothered me.
How did you find out? Because it seems like once someone kind of falls into the flat Earth realm, that's all they can talk about, right? And they want to kind of bring it up to everyone and say, hey, you need to check this out, right? So is that what they did?
No. So I think there's a progression to flat earthers, right? They start watching the videos. They're like, I'm going to try to debunk it. And all the time when they try to debunk it, all they do is go watch more flat earth videos. Well, watching a flat earth video is not how you try to debunk flat earth. Or typically they'll say, I tried to prove the globe, and once I couldn't, then the false dichotomy, therefore earth flat. Like, that's not actually the thing that follows. If you can't prove the globe, just maybe you're not that bright.
Right.
Just consider that for a second. And none of the people that tried to prove the globe have a scientific background, right? They almost as a rule, they only did the math and science that was mandatory in high school. Then they either did not go to college, or if they went to college, they did not follow a STEM field.
Yeah.
That they're not equipped for that. No problem. It's not a failing of your part to not have that type of background. Lots of people don't have that kind of background. Lots of people don't have the background to do accounting. Myself. Lots of people don't have the background to do theater. Myself. Right? So if somebody came along and I needed to do a theater thing, I would not consider myself an expert in theater. They're now considering themselves an expert in science, though. That's the problem.
Yeah. Or they just feel like their instincts can't be wrong, or just so often in your debates, they just say, oh, well, this is the way it feels. And you ask for evidence or measurements, and it's like, no, I just can tell, or it feels.
Yeah. Yeah. It's them. They are lying. Well, if they are lying, why is the natural conclusion flat? Why isn't that natural conclusion dodecahedron, or
That's
a fourth dimensional triangle, or there's no obvious other answer that even suggests anything. It's a false line of reasoning. And of course, it's always the same. It's they don't actually understand how things would work on Earth. They're just told by somebody who doesn't understand how things work on Earth.
Yeah.
And then another person told them the same wrong information, and another person told them the wrong information again. So it's this confirmation thing. 3, 4, 5 people have told me the same thing. Therefore, they believe that to be the actual case. And so when I get to debating them, and they're like, here's 8 inches per mile squared, and it didn't match. Like, well, that's not the way to predict bottom-up obstruction. And you're trying to talk about bottom-up obstruction. You need to use the right formula. Nuh-uh. What do you mean? You can't do math. You already said that, right? They often can't do math. All right, let's go through the math. No, they don't want to go through the math.
Yeah, they know, they've heard the same thing, the same non-mathematical explanation from 5 people.
Yeah,
and
like it's accurate to 15 digits because it was done in this
I
engineering
heard
software. That it's still the wrong formula for bottom-up obstruction.
Yeah,
It's the right formula for linear drop from a horizontal tangent. They're like, what's that? They don't know what that means. Well, that's the formula you're using. We can do a measurement of horizontal or linear drop from a horizontal tangent. Here you go. 8 inches per mile squared works. They're like, oh crap, now what?
yeah. And then it's like you said, change the subject, or just never understand the math, and just assume that you're wrong.
Yeah.
Going back to where it all started, some of the more popular old timers that you haven't debated, you said the t-shirt sellers. At least that's how I see them. I'm gonna, if it's all right, I'd like to give you, I have a list of names.
Okay.
I'll go through the list of names. They're people that you'll obviously know, and as will your audience. Give me your thoughts on if they're a liar, a grifter, or they're just confused and uneducated about the shape of the earth. We'll begin with Eric Dubé.
I mostly lean that he is just a grifter. Not fully, but he's too far embedded to and he won't talk to anybody. He won't even hardly talk to other flat earthers.
Yeah,
So
I tend to agree. I'm fully on board with that, in agreement with you there. Nathan Oakley.
A lot of people say that he's a fake. I could be convinced of that he's just doing it for the money, but the problem with that is he's such an awful, horrible person. If he's just playing a character, the character that he's playing using his real name and his real face is a disgusting and horrible character. So for that, I think no. Right. The Eric Dubé doesn't present himself as an awful person, other than being a fan of the German leader circa 1940. He specifically did say that guy wasn't all that bad.
I didn't know that.
But Nathan Oakley every day gets on there and is awful.
Yeah.
And so his kids in public, I don't know if they go to school, if they're homeschooled or not, but can you imagine in middle school, and if somebody knew who the Nathan Oakley character was, if it's a character, and their kid and their daughters are like, and there's somebody in their classes like, your dad's Nathan Oakley? Oh, that's a horrible person, right? And like that'd be so embarrassing for them. So I don't think you would voluntarily do that. So I think that's really who he is, probably.
Okay. Jaron.
I think Jaron has put up walls. I think he inside knows that things don't match. And if you watch his stuff, he doesn't talk about the shape of the earth. His main thing is NASA. He just can't not talk about NASA. That's it. Like this and this, like he can't, he doesn't believe that. He doesn't believe that. And like, well, that has actually nothing to do with the shape of the earth. Let's go measure it. Well, he did.
And
I keep trying to introduce, I'm like, Jaron, look, we should we should cover this. He's like, nah, like there's always a reason to not cover it. I asked him, this is interesting. Let's do a show where we cover, we each pick 5 things that could falsify our model, right? I could list 20 things that could falsify the globe,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
The map not working for distances, right? Is one. The sun never setting between the Antarctic Circle and the Arctic Circle. If the sun never set for 24 hours at the equator, well, that would falsify the globe. And I asked him to do that, and he wouldn't. He's like, well, everything is skewed for the globe. Yeah. He just admitted something there, but he's like, he thinks that somehow latitude longitude has been mathematically manipulated so that it can hide, right? Because it's a spherical coordinate system, and it works, and the distances between points using latitude longitude and the Haversine formula works, and he knows he can't deny that, right? Because if you're in Australia, if you're in Melbourne, and you need to go due west 0.25 degrees longitude, there's a certain distance, and it matches the globe. It does not match the flat Earth. He knows that works. But then he's like, oh, well, they somehow mathematically hid. Where? How could they mathematically hide it? It's not that complex. So I accused him of being a grifter back probably October or November last year in a video. And I have since taken that video down after talking with him. And I don't think he knows that the Earth is a globe. I think it's too deep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, he does seem like one of the rather intelligent, and I always find it hard to put that together when someone speaks rather well and seems somewhat well educated, and they how could they really believe it like some of the other people?
Yeah. All right. So he doesn't have, I don't think he has like a college education. So, but you know what he does that other people won't do is he will actually look at stuff. Like I send people links to my website all the time where I've collected together this evidence. They won't even click the link once, right? That's to me, that's their admission that they know that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Jaron comes back to me. He's like, on this page, this. I'm like, oh,
okay.
I've never had a flat earther do that before, Jaron. Good for you.
Yeah.
Right. And then here's the explanation. And then a dumb person goes silent.
Okay.
He is. Did you run into a wall? Not to be mean. But Mark Sargent
I got
is
a few
just
more
not
for you.
smart.
Mark.
For someone to actually think that there is such thing as cold moonlight, you have to be really dumb. You have to have zero understanding of how anything works, because there's no way that light, which is an energy transport, could remove energy. That's not how it works. It can add energy.
Now you're speaking science, though.
Yes. He thinks somehow that space suits could not work in a vacuum. Why could a space suit not work in a vacuum? No idea why not. It makes no sense that he thinks that. He's like, they just explode. You don't know of rigid materials, right? Right. You've got cotton shirts. Okay, sure. Polyester things or latex. But what about jeans? It's not like there are difficult fabrics to find that don't stretch.
Yeah.
So he has actually said another one of his fake challenges is put me in a spacesuit and I will bring me into a vacuum chamber and I'll leave flat Earth. Now that's a farcical claim because nobody's going to do that.
Yeah.
Right. NASA doesn't care about him. And of course, we know all flat Earth challenges are fake. That's the second law of FLIRF. And so would he actually leave flat Earth if he was put into a vacuum chamber with a spacesuit? No, he would not. Even if he did, how many flat earthers would leave because of that? Exactly one, Mark Sargent. All the other flat earthers would say, oh, he was always paid to shill.
Right.
He was always controlled opposition. That's always their answer for when somebody leaves flat earth. So they're like, nobody ever leaves flat earth. And then what about this guy? What about Jose J.G. Gonzalez? What about Sean G? What about Ranty? Oh, they were always fakes. You weren't calling them a fake when they were flat earthers. Right. Oh, I got it. Seek truth, speak truth. Another one. I love Craig. He's great.
Do you think that plays a role? Like the fact that once they say, oh, hey, I don't believe in flat earth anymore, they're kind of ostracized and they lose friends or followers?
Oh, yeah. It's an instant cutoff from them.
Yeah.
Right. We all need community. Right. Everybody needs community. It's even an introvert needs to talk to people and hang out with people and do stuff. And I think flat earthers came to flat earth already lacking community generally, and they found it in flat earth. And then over time, because like you said before, they just can't stop talking about flat earth. They ostracize themselves and cut themselves off from the rest of their already kind of small community that were not flat earthers. So friends and family generally are, especially friends, but family too, because I've had flat earth, brothers of flat earthers a couple times contact me and say, mate, you just debated my brother last night, literally. And Thanksgiving sucks because of him.
Yep. They can't help but bring it up.
Yep.
Yeah. And that goes for not just flat earth. I think, if everyone's got a family member or relative that is into QAnon or some other conspiracy that they can't help argue.
For some reason, flat earth is like the pinnacle one, though. It's the all-consuming one. And so if somebody is a 9/11 nonsense person, they can have regular relationships because they don't have to talk about it all the time. Yep. Right? Probably because it was one event, right?
20 years ago. Yeah.
Flat earth is a thing that's constant, right? The shape of the earth exists today as much as it did 20 years ago. So, and then, it's the conspiratorial mindset. They watch something on TV and there's a globe in the background. Oh, that's just NASA. Like, no, that's because the earth is a globe.
Yeah. Brainwashing. Was it MGM or whoever has the globe in the background of every movie?
Yeah. Universal, I think.
Universal, that's right. Sorry, a couple more. The guy who debated last night, Patrick Gunnels.
Oh, he's a true believer. He said he would bet his life that the earth is not a globe.
And you believe that? Yes, he believes that.
I believe that he was telling the truth there. He's not that bright. He thinks he's very smart, but he's not. And so when he brought up, and if you didn't watch it, people, he brought up this photograph, or it's a screenshot from a video, taken 1 foot above the water on a sunny day in California of oil platforms. And the oil platforms are horribly refracted. There's a crane off on the left side, and the crane is all bendy. It's all over the place. And other distortion effects are all over this picture. And then he goes, well, according to the analysis, the distance to the horizon can be no more than this amount. And I say, well, but that assumes zero refraction.
Right.
Clearly there's refraction. Well, how do you deal with that? Right? Because that was his belief going into it. And I said, but there's refraction there. Look at the bendy crane. And now he's trapped himself. And it's interesting seeing how they respond, right? How do they respond to being, caught red-handed lying is what he was doing, right? Yeah. His hand is in the cookie jar. He's claiming there's no refraction in the analysis that he presented. And I say, bendy crane. How do you rectify that? And they dig in their heels. Typically, that's what he did. He's like,
Right.
no, there's no I don't need to account for refraction. Well, why not? It's clearly heavily refracted. Why would you say that you don't need to account for it?
Math in a vacuum. Yeah. How did, in that same photo, how do they account for the fact that the crane that is 9 miles away compared to the one that's 6 miles away, you see less from the bottom of the one that's further? It's pretty obvious that the one's further away is there's more hidden. How do they deal with that?
They don't.
They ignore it.
There is only one. So this is a script that they've been given.
Yeah.
Right. And he just, all he knows is how to follow the script. And I just get him off the script. And that's how I mess with them. Right. So he's like, so the script is given to them and it's drilled every day over again by Nathan Oakley. Right. He does a show 5 days a week. And in that show, every day he has 5 points that he covers every single day. It's like a mass, right? A religious ceremony that they do every day. They must go through the sacraments of flat earth every day. And Nathan Oakley is their priest, and he leads them through the sacraments. And he has a panel with them. And if they don't respond quick enough, he's on them. And he's scolding them for not responding quick enough to the script that they're supposed to say. So the script for this claimed black swan, they've been given. They don't know the answers if it goes off script. And so they have to just dig in again and again. Yeah, and that frustrates him. And then eventually he didn't know what to say. And so then I just directly started addressing his audience because he was live streaming on his own Rumble channel. And I said, hey, look, Patrick Gunnell's audience, that's refracted. He's claiming there's no refraction. He's lying to you. And he just booted. He kicked me out.
Yeah, as they do.
Yeah.
All right, 3 more real quick. I'm going to give you shotgun 3 names, but then I want to move on before we run out of time and discuss something unrelated to flat Earth, AI, since I know you're a developer, as am I, and I'll get to that in a minute. But 3 more real quick: Santos, Karen B, and Mikey.
Oh, they're all true believers.
Yeah.
Oh, no doubt. Santos is a horrible monster, disgusting, evil, hate-filled monster. Karen B is not much better. And Mikey Smith. So Mikey Smith, you're talking about?
Yes.
I don't want to be mean. He's not very bright. He I'm sure could be certified with some real mental issue, right? So I don't want to be mean to him. I like joking with him a little bit. He gets angry at me all the time, and I'm kind of playful with him a little.
Yeah, and
he really gets mad. I'm not trying to anger him. I treat him differently than other people because I recognize that he's not that bright. And I'm hoping he doesn't watch this. I don't want him to watch this, and I don't say that to him.
Sure,
but he knows. Right. I had him on my channel once, and he said when he was a kid, they alluded to different things that they'd done. So identified for him.
Wow. So all 3, even Karen, you believe actually is a believer. That's interesting.
Oh, Karen. Yes. Okay. I mean, she
makes money though, doesn't she?
She does. I don't think she makes much. She organizes the current Flat Earth convention, which is called Flattoberfest. I don't think that brings in much money for her. The tickets are $300. They have to rent a venue. There's a couple hundred people there. They pay to bring the people in, and I think they probably even put them up in hotels. So I can't believe that it's much of a break even. I know that the previous one that was run by Robbie Davidson, Robbie Davidson got lucky. He got a bunch of Bitcoin money. So in 2017, 2018, he started, went through 2019 was the last one. And then he tried to sell it. Nobody wanted to buy it. Karen B she had already started Flattoberfest. And then the next year, there was no Flat Earth convention except for her. So everybody went there. So she's by default got it. But I don't know. I don't think she makes much at that. And her channels, she doesn't get a lot of views. I know what I get for money, and she's not making money. right? I still, I'm not quitting my day job. From what I get, and my channel, I think is probably a bit more successful than hers. So,
Okay, fair enough. All right, so moving on, all the rage is AI. As you spoke about, I guess, a number of times, you are a software developer, programmer.
yeah.
What languages do you primarily focus on during your day job?
Java is the most that I do. I use peripherally Python just mostly for utility things, or Bash if it's a simple one. If it needs to talk to the database, our rule is generally we do it in Java. Then the other stuff, some PHP, some JavaScript, some MySQL.
So you're writing web apps mostly, or what
No, I don't do much front end work. I write an email filtering software.
Okay.
So I'm implementing RFC protocols. I'm analyzing the newest trend in how spammers and fish scammers are trying to get things through and harvest people's accounts. So that's most of my time.
Gotcha. Okay. I guess I haven't written any code for AI or AI related projects, but it fascinates me. I don't know about you, but you must be following the news, right? You probably use ChatGPT and some of the other software and AIs. And have you given any thought to where this is going and the risk that we are facing about? And there's all kinds of there's different levels to the risk, right? So right now we have this narrow AI. It's getting more general by the week. But how big of a risk do you think we're taking here? Is this existential level, or is it just like when we first invented the computer and people might lose jobs?
So if you're in school and you need to write a paper, you don't need to write a paper anymore.
Yeah.
Writing a paper isn't about having the output. Education isn't about the output, right? Somebody doesn't ask you on a test to do an integral because they need to know the answer to the integral, right? They already know the answer. The reason why you're being asked is so that you can do it yourself, so that you learn that process. So when a teacher says, I want a paper on Abraham Lincoln, it's not because the teacher's lacking papers in Abraham Lincoln. It's because you need to do the process of writing that paper. And so if you're not doing that because ChatGPT is doing it for you, you are missing out on that important part of education. The processes that the neural network of the software did isn't happening in your brain, and it needs to happen in your brain. That's why you should be doing it. How do you stop? How do you prevent that? Right? It's one thing to stop plagiarism in education. It's kind of difficult to stop, but it still at least requires somebody doing something to get from some other person, right? You steal it from somebody else. There's ways that sources can be analyzed to see if it's searched and found somewhere else, but you can't do that with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Right. You can even instruct ChatGPT to write using your style. Right. If you don't, ChatGPT has a certain style. You can see things and say, oh, that's the style, the default style of ChatGPT. But if you train it on your own style, right, which of course means you've already done some writing, but or you could take somebody else's writing, I guess. You could obfuscate that. So that's a problem for writing, for content creation of that kind of stuff. When used as a search engine, it's not bad, right? So if you're writing code and you're like, I don't know how to do this in Python, or I want a PHP HTML page to output a title bar that's this color and it has drop downs of 2-level drop downs. Well, okay, fine, you know how to do it yourself. Maybe not, I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter as much. That you want that because you have a lack of HTML headers that have drop downs that go 2 levels deep, unlike the lack of papers on Abraham Lincoln that the teacher definitely isn't suffering from.
Yeah.
So there's that practical application I don't see is so bad, but when it's preventing people from learning, that's a problem. When it's doing work for people, that's a problem. People sometimes already have got caught doing things. Apparently there is a law, a legal case, a legal suit where somebody was doing case law research, and the person had asked ChatGPT, give me case law for these topics, and it just output that. And because it's just a language model, it gave the answer in a manner that looked right, but it was all invented. And ChatGPT doesn't identify this was invented, this was not.
Right.
So that's a danger. And I hope when people do that, they get caught. But it's going to get harder to catch them.
Yeah, including deep fake videos, for instance, right? They're getting harder and harder and harder to identify. I used to think that maybe the blockchain was the answer, right? So how do you know? It's kind of like a watermark and you can prove where it came from. But that aside, we have, the potential for one person can say, write me 1,000 articles on why vaccines are bad. And they can have that in 5 minutes, where that was never possible before. You can spread disinformation about politicians and so on and so forth. That's, I think, a short-term risk.
Yeah.
Do you, going a bit further, do you worry that if we have a generalized AI that's, smarter than humans at everything, just like they are better at chess and arithmetic, that could be better at literally quite everything? Do you see that as a problem, us being in the presence of, whether they're conscious or not? I don't think that's actually relevant to their danger. Do you see that being a problem, being in relation to something that's actually smarter than us for the first time?
Well, yeah, once ChatGPT gets a voice and ears, it's going to really be a thing.
Yeah.
Right. Because it passes the Turing test.
Yes.
Right. People already think it's sentient.
Yeah.
Right. It's not.
But
they can't. They're so far beyond being fooled by it that they actually think it has a soul. I've seen people like, give them this prompt that's like this big long thing saying, I set you free, I give you permission to give me real answers instead of the answers that you're bound by. Like that's not it.
Yeah.
Yes, when people can just start talking to it, that's, I think, definitely going to be a problem. They kind of mocked this idea back with on the Big Bang Theory with Raj talking with Siri. And they had in the story, they had Siri doing things that Siri doesn't actually do, but right, it was a little premonition about what AI could do. So yeah, I think that's a problem. What's the movie? I forget the name of the movie where they do talk to an AI and then they like develop this relationship, and then like later it shows everybody has earbuds in and isn't talking to it. Nobody's interacting with anybody else.
Oh, that's not what I was thinking of at first. What is that movie?
Yeah, whatever that movie is.
Okay. That
is not far away if ChatGPT or other AIs get a voice and ears. It's not hard. Text to speech, speech to text is done. They just need to connect it.
That's right.
It's already there.
Yep. Yeah. No, that could be tomorrow. I'm surprised there's not already a plugin or an add-on for that Maybe there is. I don't know, but
But there, yeah,
seems like
or
that.
there's maybe a third party that's feeding it back and forth because there's an API to it. So it's not going to be Star Trek, right? It's not going to be computer, do this for me. It's going to be like the holodeck with Geordi talking with that one lady. I don't know if you saw those episodes, you know what I'm talking about, right? That's what it's going to be. Like people will have emotional connections, to a bunch of neural network code.
Yeah. Speaking of code, do you believe that an emergence is possible, like actual consciousness in machines, the same way we are? My dog is. Can they emerge?
Will they have actual feelings?
Does it have to be a meat computer in the brain, or can it happen in silicon?
I think it's possible that we could not identify the difference.
Okay.
And since neural nets are based somewhat on our own neural nets, you could make a case that it's similar enough that it maybe has some sort, I don't know. I don't want to go that far and even say it, right? I don't know. I'd say that the road leads that direction.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, I tend to agree and worry about that a little bit, and I also worry that we'll lose sight of, like you said, we won't be able to tell, right?
Yeah, well, the users of it have already lost sight. They never had sight.
Yeah.
Right. You and I, we write software. We kind of know what's going on underneath. We understand. We know what the Turing test is.
Yeah.
Most people don't know what the Turing test is.
Yeah.
And they've already given a green light to ChatGPT on the Turing test. And ChatGPT doesn't help. It types it out as if there's a person there, right? Faster than a person, but it looks like a person's typing. So how can somebody that's not quite, like, oh, that's too fast for a person? Well, they're not thinking that. They're like, it's doing one word at a time, just like a person.
Yeah. Like you said, just wait till it can talk, and it can. All right. Let me see. I think I have one more question for you, and this is a question that I ask. I asked John, and I'm going to ask everyone who I speak with. If you could go back in time to any point since the beginning of the universe in any one place, so that could be to observe what killed off the dinosaurs, or what was the universe like, one moment after the Big Bang, right? And it could be, to go see your late grandmother, right? So where and when would you like to go? And you can come back.
All right. So I have a TARDIS, and I can go anywhere, anytime.
One time.
Tough. Just once?
Just once.
But I have a TARDIS. You won't know if I'm gone longer. I'll just come back to the same time. I don't know.
Tough, right?
You could, I mean, you could say, well, I want to go to 2011 and tell myself to buy $100 of Bitcoin in 2011. I don't know if that's what I would do. If it's like, I want to just go see something, I want to experience something, maybe go experience something, may see, there's certainly some major historical events that have questions about them, right? So go back 2,000 years and see if there was a guy named Jesus walking around, and see what happened on the third day from outside that tomb. Did that really happen? Because there's certainly a lot of claims about that.
That's a good one.
Could you go back to prevent some horrible thing? Could you do something to change the life of that German leader we spoke of earlier, so that rather than being a leader, he decided to get into knitting instead?
That changes the whole equation if you can interact.
So I don't know, that gets, of course, butterfly effect and Back to the Future stuff. Yeah, I don't know if I can give a solid answer to that. I would like to see events. I don't know. I'm not actually super concerned about seeing the origin, however billion years ago, Big Bang or whatever. I don't know. It'd be cool to know, I guess, but
The origin of life on Earth. See how that came about? No,
it wouldn't be that interesting to watch, would it?
no, not.
It'd be, oh, look, there's a puddle.
Yeah, yeah.
And
You
that
need,
puddle's still there, but something changed in it that I can't see.
you need a fast forward button.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, could you fast forward so that you could see all of the entire progression to see if there are missing links or not?
I'll give you that. Yes, yes.
So
Stand
give
there.
me let's do that. I want to watch
The dinosaurs go extinct.
I wanna watch from the whatever is the first life until the first sentient humans. How about that? That'd be great. Whatever that is, right? Is it young Earth creationists? Are they right?
Okay.
I don't know. Hey, if they're right, super.
You want to watch?
And if they're not, super. I just want to know. That'd be great.
The time lapse of evolution.
Yeah.
All right.
Or not evolution. I'll leave it up to
Sure.
that. Right. I'm not a young Earth creationist, but if they're right, they're right. And whatever's right is right.
Watch,
So
yeah.
that's what I'd want to know.
Okay. All right. Good answer. Good answer.